In this video, 5 freediving techniques for beginners. We're gonna talk about the final breath, the duck dive, your body position, your finning technique, and techniques for equalization. And as a bonus, we'll be talking about the recovery breath. Coming up. What's up guys, today we'll be talking about 5 techniques for beginning freedivers to make you a better freediver. If you're new to this channel, my name is Gert Leroy, helping you master freediving. And honestly, when I started freediving, my life just simply changed for the better. Freediving gave me a space, a way to relax my mind and let go of all my tension. I have found my peace. And now I want you to find your peace through the practicing of freediving. So if you like the idea, consider subscribing and hit the notification bell. Technique number 1, the final breath. So before you take your final breath, you spend at least 2 or 5 minutes just relaxing. You know, we call this the breathe up. So the whole goal of the breathe up is just to get into the zone, to relax your minds and to prepare for your dive. We usually do this by breathing very lightly and we call this tidal breathing. It's a small inhalation, a small exhalation. So it is the opposite of deep breathing. We're not going to do something like... We're gonna do exactly the opposite. It's almost unnoticeable. This is called tidal breathing. So the goal of the breathe up is to simply relax and get your mind into the zone, prepare for your dive. So when you're done with this relaxation phase, it is time to take your final breath. So we're gonna do the final breath using the 2-part breath. Now what is a 2-part breath? We're gonna use the belly and the chest. So first we're gonna learn how to belly breathe. You put your hand on your stomach and you imagine putting air into your belly. So your belly goes out and back in, and out, and back in. So you're not going to use any other part of your body, your whole body stays still, only the belly is moving. Now for chest breathing, we're going to use the chest obviously, so now air is not going to come into the belly anymore, we're going to visualize, we're going to put air into the chest. So the chest goes open with the inhalation, and close with the exhalation. And in, and out. So now back to the final breath. We're going to use the belly and the chest in one big inhalation, which lasts more or less 5 seconds. So in through the belly, 1, 2, and going towards the chest, 4, 5. And then you hold your breath. It looks like this. Technique number 2, the duck dive. Now the duck dive is the easiest way to break the surface. Now what does that mean, breaking the surface? Well, in different disciplines in freediving, and the most common is constant weight using bifins, because that is what you've been doing when you were snorkeling. The most common way to break the surface is to lay flat on your belly and go from a horizontal position to a vertical position. So how are we going to duck dive? So, you're horizontally on the water, you have your snorkel in your mouth, you take your final breath through the snorkel, and then you take the snorkel out. Once the snorkel is out of your mouth, you're going to extend the hands in front of you, holding the snorkel in one hand. Then you're going to kick once or twice to give yourself a forward momentum. Once you have this forward momentum, you're going to lower your hands into an angle of 90 degrees to point out the direction you're going to dive to. And this is exactly the moment you're going to do the duck dive. Your whole body now is going to follow your hands. So you're going to duck your head into the water, following the direction your arms are pointing out. And at the same time, you're going to lift one leg out of the air, and the weight of that leg is going to push you down under the surface. The duck dive is finished once your fins are under the water, but if this doesn't happen and you start finning, then you're finning into the air and nothing's going to happen. So we see this happening a lot with beginning freedivers. Once your upper body is under the water, you can make one arm stroke to bring your hands from above your head next to your body and propel yourself even a couple of meters deeper underwater. Remember, the whole idea of a duck dive is to get your whole body under the surface so you can start finning. Keep in mind that some students make life a little bit easier by putting more weight on. If you have more weight on you, then obviously you're gonna go down easier. But remember that you always have to go up. For every dive that you go down, you have to come up. And if you have more weights on you, that's actually more difficult and sometimes even dangerous. So don't do that, okay? You have to learn how to duck dive with minimal weight or even no weights. If you see me in the footage, I'm not using any weight at all, although I am wearing a pretty thick wetsuit, which makes me quite positively buoyant. So I have to be very efficient in my duck dive, if not it's impossible for me to get my fins under the water. So I highly advise you, if you practice a duck dive, use minimal amount of weights or even no weights at all. Technique number 3, the body position. Now, when you have done your duck dive and all goes well, then you want to dive deeper, you want to continue diving. Now, the biggest mistake I see beginning freedivers make is the body position. Most people, they go into what I call the banana shape. So there are a couple of reasons why this banana shape is very counterproductive. Well, first of all, if your body is in a banana shape, then you're going to follow this banana curve. You're never going to dive in a straight line. Second, it puts a lot of stress on the muscles in your neck, and for equalization you need to be relaxed, especially in your neck. Your whole neck and tongue and oral cavity, your mouth, they have to be relaxed, and there's only one way to do this, and that is to keep your body in a straight position. So this is what we usually see, and this is the correct position. Now, another reason why this is counterproductive is very mental. When you are looking where you're going, then you are busy focusing on something that is not there yet. I want you to focus on the moment right now. I want you to focus on relaxation. I want you to focus on equalization. And if you're looking where you're going, you are already focusing on what's happening next, and you forget about the moment itself. So this might be more a philosophical approach, but I think it's very important that you don't look where you're going, at least if you're doing line diving. Okay, if you're snorkeling, if you are fun diving, if you want to look at the fish, eventually you're going to have to look where you're going, but then you do it momentarily. You quickly look up, okay, that's where I am, and then for the most part of your dive, you're going to keep your head in that straight position again. So body position has to be straight and not in a curve. One more tip on this. I teach my students, if they struggle with this, and most of them do, to do exactly the opposite. So the thing is, your body might be in this banana curve, but you might not be aware of this. You might think that your body is in a straight position, but if you would see a picture of you, then you would realize, oh my God, look at me, this is so bad. So when I advise students to do exactly the opposite, I tell them to imagine sitting down on a chair. So you bend your knees, you imagine you're sitting down with your butt on a chair, and you're bending forward. You're bending forward with your shoulders and with your head. Now, this is obviously not a correct position to dive, but this is an exercise. Because what happens in reality, if you do this, if you imagine sitting down in the chair, like the chair position, and bending forward and going forward with your upper body and your head, in reality, most of the time you will see, if someone takes a picture of you, that your body is pretty straight. So I've been helping students a lot with this tip, and afterwards when I show them the pictures, they were like, oh my God, I thought I was really doing the chair position, but now I see I was actually in a straight position, so you might want to try that. Technique number 4, the kicking technique, how to kick your fins. Well, there's a lot we can say about this, and in courses they teach you to kick from the hip and to make a kind of a bigger amplitude. And why are they saying this? Because, well, if you don't know how to do it, you're probably going to do something that we call the bicycle kick, which is a kick that doesn't put any power from your legs towards your fins. So that's why initially we teach, well, I'm saying just instructors in general in courses, they teach you to keep your legs more or less straight and just have a little bend on your knee. So yes, that is how I would teach a beginner to kick the fins, but you will see as you progress, as you will become a better freediver, that there are actually many ways to kick the fins. And if you analyze the technique of elite freedivers, you will see that they're all having their own technique. And for me personally, I don't even really know how I kick the fins. So when I do a dive, my deepest dives are in the 70s now, when I do 70 meters by fins, honestly, I don't really know how I kick. All I focus on is letting my legs decide how I use the power from my legs in the best possible way to transfer that power towards your fins and have a maximum output. Now, I do realize that this is not what you can say to a beginner. You cannot tell a beginner, okay, just try whatever and see what works best. A beginner needs guidance. And that's why in courses we teach the bigger amplitude and keeping your legs more or less straight with a little bend in the knee when you go forward. So when you bring the leg forward, you're going to bend the knee a little bit, and when you bring the leg backwards, the leg is straight. Your ankles should be all relaxed. There's nothing specific you do with your feet. Just let your ankles hang loose, let them relaxed. Once again, if you analyze the kicking technique of deep freedivers, you will see that some people like small amplitudes and they kick in a way that resembles very much the bicycle kick, and others they like bigger amplitudes and keep their legs more or less straight. So it's basically up to you, but as a beginner I would definitely go for the way it has been taught in courses. And technique number 5, equalization technique. Now there's a lot I can say about equalization. I cannot crop everything into one small video. We have Valsalva technique, we have Frenzel technique, and for more advanced freedivers, but not everyone is able to do this, we can hands-free equalize, and I've made a video about this, how I hands-free equalize, and I'll link it up in the cards right here. Okay, the Valsalva method. How are we going to do this? We're going to make a short, strong exhalation through the nose, something like this. And to do so, we're going to use the abdominal muscles. We're going to contract the abdominal muscles to push air from that region towards the nose. Now, in order to equalize, to make your ears pop, you're going to have to pinch the nose. So we're going to do exactly the same. Try blowing out of your nose, but this time by pinching the nose. And that should open up the ears, because the air has no way to get out, so it's going towards the eustachian tubes that lead towards the ears. To be sure there is air going through your nose, you can try different ways of pinching. If you're doing this, then you don't really see your nostrils flare out, but if you pinch your nose from the bottom, then you see my nostrils flaring out. That's a good sign. It means pressure is building up. So if you have pressure in here, you're doing it right. Another way of equalization is the Frenzel method. This time you're not going to use your abdominal muscles anymore. In fact, this whole abdominal region is not going to move. So this time you're going to use your tongue, the back of your tongue, as a piston to push air from here towards your ears. To check if you're doing it right, your larynx should move. You can see the larynx going up and down. So you're pushing air towards your ears, and if you're doing it right, you should be able to Frenzel equalize with your mouth open. Why is that? Because the air that you need to equalize is not in front of your mouth, it's in the back. And then a third method is hands-free equalization. There's many ways to do so. The method I use is simply swallowing. So I'm making a little saliva in my throat, and then I swallow it. You can see the larynx going up and down when I swallow. When this happens, my ears pop and I equalize. Okay guys, I promised you a bonus technique, so we're going to talk about the recovery. How are we going to recover after a dive? The goal of the recovery breath is to get in as much oxygen to replenish your system with oxygen, because you have been holding your breath for quite a long time, so you're lower on oxygen. So now you want to get in oxygen as fast as possible, and we do this by a technique that we call the recovery breath. The technique is very similar to how you breathe when you've been walking around the block and you're tired. It looks like this. Always remember that you have to do recovery breath right after a dive, because you can still get into troubles, you can still faint, lose consciousness, we call this a blackout, a couple of seconds after you surface. So immediately after you surface, you do the recovery breath, and then your dive is finished and you can start talking to your friends. Question of the day: which of those 5 techniques is for you the most difficult to execute? Let me know in the comments. And if you want to know more about mastering freediving, then hit the round subscribe button here. And here I have a dedicated video on hands-free equalization, how I hands-free equalize to 33 meters. So go ahead and click on that. That's it guys, see you next time. Peace.